Welcome, everyone, to The Miracle Is You. I'm so excited to be here with you. I'm your host, Ashley Lee. We sure have a show for you. Today, we are going to support you, opening your giftedness of self-navigation through your inner guidance. And with me today is my co-host, Annie Kalakar, and our special guest influencer, Kimi Kato. Welcome, Annie. I'm so glad, and welcome, Kimi. I'm so glad you all are here joining us today.
Thank you, Ashley. I'd love to take a moment to just introduce Kimi to everyone. Kimi is from the music industry, and he's been in it pretty much his whole life. Mm-hmm. And he has probably served in every role, from singing to playing an instrument, organizing groups and bands, and signing them up to a label. And now he is actually the head of his own company, Project Esteri, here in Los Angeles. So Kimi works with artists who are really big influencers, and he has his own levels of influence on them, whether he admits it or not. So today we're going to ask him some questions about how his inner guidance has helped support him in his lifetime on his life path. And I know, Kimi, that you actually started a music label long ago and far away, didn't you?
I didn't really start a label, but I did have my own band and tried to run it, yes, as a teenager. We didn't get anywhere, but
that's okay.
But obviously we learned a lot from it.
Right.
That influenced me to start working for the music industry.
And what would you say was a deciding moment for you in terms of your inner guidance, your intuition, that shared with you that your giftedness would be in music? Do you remember your earliest moments where your inner guidance guided you?
In terms of music, well, in terms of influence and finding my own way, I think I've been fortunate to be able to meet so many different people, including friends, family, that have helped me in making every decision I make. I don't think I've always referenced what people have mentioned, words or conversations that I had as a kid with friends, family, teachers, relatives, everyone you bump into in life, bump into randomly or by some fate. I would always remember key conversations that always struck my heart, whether it be big or small. And when I come to a crossroad, or when I come to a point where I need to make decisions, it flashes back to that moment where, this person once said to me, so and so, and I take that gift or the guidance that will lead me to that direction.
It sounds like you cataloged a lot of truth, like you have maybe a gift of discernment that allows you to hear what is good wisdom, and then you cataloged it and you were able to access it with your inner guidance.
That's, I think, ultimately what I've been doing throughout my life until today. Right now, I will probably learn many things from you, Ashley, and you, Annie, which I'll probably remember for the rest of my life. I might not remember that particular moment, but then comes the moment where that box opens up, or a door opens up, and say, I remember when Ashley told me this. And then I make that decision. I don't know what it is. It just comes out at that moment. Whether it's right or wrong, I'll never know, because you make that decision and you take that step. There's always alternative steps that you can always take, millions of choices. But when that happens, I always try to get things out of my box, as you say, catalog, and find the right answer. In terms of music, my parents were always into music, and I've been listening to classical music. My parents used to take me to classical music concerts many times, which I was completely and utterly bored out of. But there was a moment when we were listening to a record, and I knew the whole record by heart because I've heard it so many times. I could obviously guess the next song. I would know the next song. I would start singing, humming the next song, and my dad was so surprised that I would had learnt the whole album, maybe a few listens. So, and I was always in tune. I don't know, I think through that, I began picking up instruments. I was never good at being taught. I always wanted to self-learn.
Autodidactic.
So, yes, I could never learn the piano because I was always taught piano. So I unfortunately cannot play the piano. I can read notes, but I can't play the piano. But I learned it the longest. The funny thing is I'm way better at playing my guitar and the bass, having taught myself. So that's what I did when I was playing in the band. And no one taught me how to write songs. You kind of learn how to write songs along the way. And through sharing and sitting down with your bandmates, your bandmates, and coming up with ideas. And that's how you create creative things. I don't think people so I've worked with many superstars, from new artists to artists that everyone knows, from, I don't know, Lady Gaga, Taylor Swift, Justin Bieber. I've met them when they were just coming out, and I would debut them in Japan. From playing in a clubhouse to arenas, we would be the ones guiding them through all the success in Japan, which I was very fortunate to be working with. So that's how I ended up building my career in the music industry.
I have one more question. I'm sure Ashley's got a few. Being from Japan, how is inner guidance, or how we self-navigate through life with trust and faith? Is there any particular way in which that is cultivated in children as they're growing up? Do you remember anything along those lines?
Can you explain that again? Sorry.
Like, do parents cultivate in children the development of their inner guidance? Do they encourage their children to listen to their inner voice?
You know what? I don't think parents tell you to act on self-guidance. I think my parents certainly, I mean, they were very loving and caring, and they are still, but they would tend to guide you rather than guide yourself, rather than advising you to guide yourself. It's more about, you should do this, or you should do that. Don't do this, do that. It would be more about that. I think that's more about parenthood. I think, generally speaking, my parents were like that. My parents wouldn't really say, what do you think you should do? No, it was more about, no, you should do this. Don't do that, do this. So I don't think, but my parents have always
supported your efforts.
Absolutely.
So then, where inside of you did you recognize that your inner guidance was real, was a thing? Because you have always made this incredible forward progress in your journey.
I don't know where it came from or where it comes from, but I know that growing up in a boarding school without your parents from when you're at the age of 13 until finishing up high school, and then that was in England. I went to a English boarding school.
We never would have guessed.
For 5 years. You are forced to grow up with individual feelings and being able to express yourself within a community that without your parents, you're living by yourself, almost living by yourself. I know financially, otherwise, my parents are supporting me to go to that school, but in that school, in that particular society, you have nobody else but yourself. So obviously that nurtures your your individual guidance within that community. How do you survive almost in that community where you have teenagers, your seniors, and then obviously once you become a senior, you have your juniors in the school, and you interact with them every day, 24/7, with teachers and students.
So you learn early on to stand in your power, and
you would need to.
You
definitely need to.
Those are beautiful explanations of how you experience your life through your navigation and through navigating really what inspires you to create those decisions. And you mentioned the comment of right decision. In that moment, whether you were young, a teenager, young adult, or now, when you experience that right decision, before you enact on it and move forward, step forward, like you shared, what inside of you is that gleaming moment of inspiration? How do you know it's right? What does that feel like, look like, or what do you sense when you know it's the right decision?
Right. I think, well, so I would say, what's more exciting to you? What feels more? So this is, I think, really important when you say whether it's right or wrong. It might be a wrong decision, but if you feel the excitement towards that decision, it could be, on a degree, right decision. Whether you're making a wrong decision, if you feel that that's the decision you want to take because of other reasons, that ultimately could be a right reason. If you look at it on a bigger picture, it could be a wrong reason, or it could be right reason, but wrong for that particular moment. So right or wrong could never be judged unless you're coming to the end of your life and you're about to die and you have 3 minutes to think about and look back to your life. I've probably made a lot of wrong decisions, and I know I have. Wrong decisions, short-term wrong decisions to long-term wrong decisions, maybe. But who knows? I mean, you never know until you're right at the end of your life. But then at that moment, I think every decision you make was the right decision.
Yes, and in that moment, you shared so beautifully about discerning the right and wrong decision, and after looking back, some of your wrong decisions may have been the right decisions, right? And so moving past the right and wrong of the decision, what we're aspiring to do to share with everyone and to really open that envelope of is choosing a decision based in love versus choosing a decision based in fear. I'm worried something's bad's going to happen. And in that moment of choosing through love, right, it feels good, like you shared. And so in that, do you ever have like an inner voice or an inner calling or an inner tug, not just our parents and what society tells us to do or not to do, but that inner tug that says, this may not seem like the right decision or the right way to navigate my life right now. And something inside of me, deep inside of me, tells me, take a leap of faith, take that jump and go do that decision. What inside of you really inspires you to know that you've taken that leap, and really your inner navigation continues to feed you through that process? So maybe, not all decisions are a singular step, right? There's a lot of baby decisions inside of them, but really taking that leap. And that's what we're sharing here. In the moments when we've experienced a very different society after the last 11 months. And many adults are having to rethink, reinvent themselves, design, and they're looking for their inner calling, their inner giftedness, and sharing that in the world now versus just going to get a job. Could you share with everyone tuning in today and in the future, what from your experience, what in them can they experience for themselves to begin this road of self-navigation, really experiencing that inner love that they are?
For me, I think sharing your thoughts with your loved ones is immensely important. I mentioned about being independent, being able to guide yourself, etc. That only happens and that only works when you have loved ones around you helping you through the advice, they're helping you make those decisions. So I don't think I've ever made any decisions without, for instance, consulting my wife or my parents. And I always seek advice from my mentor or boss or friend, even if I have that answer, even if I know that I know the answer already, I know that I'm going to take that decision. I would always consult and ask their advice. And if they disagree, I'd probably still take that decision, but make that decision. But still, I would always seek advice, seek opinions, so that I catalog everything, all these thoughts, the ideas, the comments, so that maybe one day I'll look back on the catalog and go, well, that happened back then, this happened, but I took that decisions. Or maybe it has nothing to do with that particular moment. Those comments will stay in my heart, in my mind, so that it comes out in a different moment. So yes, so what I wanted to say is, I think it's always important to always have people around you. Don't try to shut yourself out from everybody because you are independent or you don't have anybody to seek advice to. There's always someone around you that you can say, hi, you know, I just want to share what I'm doing now. And what do you think? No pressure, just
gain another perspective.
Yes, I love having third person perspective. Just say, this is happening with me at the moment. What do you think? What would you do? And then sometimes interesting thoughts or interesting ideas just comes out, and really helpful. It's really helpful.
I know for me, when I talk with another person, I actually hear in my head those thoughts that I hadn't considered, because I'm actually laying it out so that the other person can actually perceive what it is that I'm sharing. And by taking their perspective and how they're hearing me share, I actually get the insights that I'm looking for. So I kind of do a similar process. And it's just that when I hear myself talk through a decision, I actually get better feedback, better guidance inside myself than if I just sit with it and I end up thinking and feeling or believing what it is that I want to think and feel, because I sometimes have attachment to the outcome. And attachment to the outcome is a really significant challenge for allowing inner guidance to be present, because when we want the truth to be a certain way, we end up hearing what we want to hear instead of letting the truth speak.
Absolutely. I was listening to those words so deeply, and during that pause, that was really amazing. And what wonderful insight in this idea, really, when we're creating a decision, even big and small. You're right, Kimi, when we really consent and create consensus with those around us, the energy, right, of the decision is magnified. And there are other resources that we may not have realized that come in to support us fulfilling that decision. And so I sense that that's so valuable. And sometimes those are challenging. Like maybe even you can share with us for a moment in your
Ashley, you cut out there for like 15 seconds. What would you like Kimi to share?
About how you reach consensus in your work environment when you have a big decision or an idea to have the whole company flourish in those ways?
Yes. So I had a team of about 60 people in Japan at Universal Music. I ran international for about 10 years, and you have to make big to small decisions every day. In terms of, so people expect you when you're the head of the team. People expect you to give answers, to give solutions, immediate solutions, and expect it to solve. That's what everyone expects you to do. You're the head of the company, head of the team. You have to make the right decisions every day. It doesn't happen like that. Everybody makes wrong mistakes, wrong decisions, but you have to always make it right. What I always did was I would have meetings where I would ask everybody. And I always thought of myself as being, I never thought myself of being talented at all whatsoever. I always considered myself an average person that happened to be where I am and was given that position and act on that position. So nothing to do with my talent. So everybody tell me what to do. Everybody, what do you think? So I would ask everybody and catalog that and make that decision from the best answers available. That's how I made my decisions. Obviously, sometimes instinctive, but I try not to make too many decisions through instinct, just on instinct. I would ask people for guidance. Fortunately, I wasn't the oldest in the team. So I had seniors who had more experience than me, or decades of experience than me. And I was very thankful that I had those people. And I was always thankful to have people with different talent, different knowledge, strength and weaknesses, so that, and being able to identify those in your team, that was the way I navigated the team. So you be able to seek out the strength and the weaknesses of your team, so that you can get the right guidance from your team and your subordinates or your co-workers.
You bring up something that makes me recall, like, one of the things that I always valued in leaders was their humility to take another person's perspective. And inside that humility comes neutrality. Neutrality is, I'm here to receive, I'm here to listen. And I think that most people overlook neutrality because they might think it's boring or too peaceful, or they're not comfortable with it. But truly, inside neutrality is the greatest space for receiving and then discerning, because we have more clarity when we're neutral. With neutrality, we have no judgments. So our windshield is clear, our hearing is clear, our heart is clear, our mind just can take in everything. And that's really beautiful, because that is a gift. That's one part of your giftedness, to have that humility to go high and go low and take it all in. And I think too, when we let go of attachment to the outcome of what it is that our, self-navigating is all about, making decisions for one's path. And sometimes it does include a group. But having that neutrality and no attachment to an outcome, but simply listening, perceiving, and then discerning, that is where I think that it all crystallizes. And then that inner knowing comes out of that whole process. So this is exactly the type of material that we wanted to share with our listeners today, because we all have to deepen our connection with our inner guidance. And we all have different ways of understanding and expressing it. Isn't that right, Ashley?
Absolutely. I experience inner guidance through moments of contemplation and meditation. And so in the mornings, I settle myself into the day creating clarity, creating understanding, creating that inner guidance, and really tuning into different aspects of the world where I'd like to focus my energy, my giftedness in that day. And I can tell you that for me adds a huge amount of clarity and helps me settle in to how I'm going to be expressing, how I'm going to be speaking or presenting myself to each other. And Kimi, you really inspired me to create an environment with more consensus. I think many times we, especially in our own little bubbles at home right now, right? We get a little closed in on the consensus realm to support each other and to gain guidance and influence from those we are closest with, either in work, family, home, and extended people in our circles of influence.
And actually, I want to add that my son, even though he's 8 years old, I have been teaching him about heart-centered consensus. And every time I want him to do something that's for the community, I remind him, let's do this through heart-centered consensus. So one day he tunes in and he says, oh, I don't think that's a good idea that I do this because, you know, consensus. And I just about laughed in front of him. It was so cute. But at the same time, I was so, oh my gosh, I was just ready to burst with joy because at 8 years of age, he was starting to learn heart-centered consensus. And his own inner navigation, his inner leadership recognized that it wasn't going to be good for everybody if he did his, you know, the thing that he wanted at the time, which I don't remember what it was, but that is a really big stepping stone when we can remember consensus for the group. And it really begins inside families, and then it grows into the spaces where we work with our colleagues, where we work with our neighbors and our community, and then as a greater community. And this is something that Ashley and I are always speaking about, which is in service to us. And part of in service to us is I take care of me for you as you take care of you for me. And then if you're filling your cup with self-love and I am filling my cup with self-love, we can come together like we did this morning, and we can create this amazing interview for others. So it's good for everybody, and everyone's included in the conversation, in the relating, and then it just has a ripple effect. So the three of us right now technically are being influencers. But the beautiful thing is that it is filling the cups up of others. And others will take these little messages away, and then they'll go and influence their circles. And this is how we can begin to change our reality, in a sense, by creating this ripple effect, because we take the initiative inside ourselves first to do self-love and navigate our own conflicts so that we can heal those conflicts, create the peace. And then when we come together and join, we have a very different effect inside consensus. So Ashley, would you like to add anything to the self-navigation to release the miracle inside of us?
Well, I sense that it's a beautiful opportunity for everyone to take a moment to really dive in on a daily basis of how you gather your inner guidance so that it supports you on your self-navigation and making, like Kimi had shared, small decisions and large decisions so that you really feel whole and healthy and happy and loved and supported. And as you feel that love and support and confidence inside yourself, really taking that wisdom and that insight of Kimi's to really bring that inner guidance out to the world and share that with everyone else, and really open our minds and our hearts to the perspectives and the understandings and the insight and wisdom of all others, because really there is where you'll receive all of the bounty of the decision that could be done. Even if that decision isn't the best one in the moment, it can be modified along the way. And then I sense too, from that level of consensus through inner guidance, it's like we have a circle of inner guidance from everyone involved. When we experience that, we really then have the opportunity to create the world we choose to create together, rather than individually and separately throughout these decisions we make throughout our day and our lifetime. I just want to sincerely say thank you, Kimi, for joining us today. And
Ashley is cutting out.
Annie, you can help us complete for today. Thank you all so much. So yes, as we work through technology as well.
I know. Thank you, Kimi, for being here. It was really great to hear your perspective on inner guidance, even from a cultural perspective, which, you know, in America, we don't always receive that. And we certainly don't ask these types of questions every day. So it was really a pleasure to get to know you even more on that level. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. And if you would like to be the miracle that you want to be, we have an amazing self-healing meditation course that you can take that's 12 weeks. And each week corresponds to each one of these TV shows. And we also have an email that we send out to set the contextual context or focus of your meditation. And we support the release of consciousness challenges that are preventing you from being the miracle that you wish to be. And of course, we always follow up with empowerments that you can embody and express with all of your giftedness in the world. And next, we are going to have Dr. Andrea Pennington on board, aren't we, Ashley? Could you share?
Yes, we are. She is an amazing physician and metaphysician that really brings in spirituality and medicine together to really create these levels of healing and self-healing within everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. We are so glad to experience the miracle is you.